Today is a very special video. You can probably tell. It's WandaVision. Hi guys, today's video we have a special one. As you saw, it is a WandaVision review. Now this is the first Disney Plus MCU project that we've had. The first MCU show which is a continuation of the story, not just a side thing like Daredevil, etc. So yeah, this is a really interesting and anticipated one from pretty much anyone who's a Marvel fan. Before I get into my review, please let me know down below what you thought of WandaVision, and if you could please like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. So without further ado, let's get into the review. WandaVision blends the style of classic sitcoms with the MCU, in which Wanda, Maximoff and Vision, two superpowered beings living their ideal suburban lives, begin to suspect that everything is not as it seems. I mean, I probably didn't need to read that, because I'm sure pretty much anyone watching has seen this already or knows what it's about. But just the brief synopsis. But anyways, let's get into the pros. So as this is a show and it releases episodes every Friday, there was a lot of anticipation and a lot of impatience every week. And to be honest, that sort of experience was my favourite part of this whole show. You know, we'd get some big reveal or big twist or something, and we'd see those damn credits roll, which I hated so much through the period of watching it, because just as things would get spicy or interesting, they would roll. But yeah, so my favourite thing about this season is just, you know, that anticipation, that impatience. You know, we'd get a twist and then the credits would roll and we'd have to wait a whole nother week for it. And you don't get that sort of experience when you're looking back at it a year later or so and you're watching through it all in one go with all the episodes available. So that did enhance my experience, especially with those twists and how many theories it opened up. In hindsight, a lot of them were very off, but it just made for such a nice and fun thing to do in this troubled time, and really brought the MCU community even more closer. When they first released the first 3 episodes, it didn't really do too much. As people would say, there was a lot of people who criticised the show after watching the first 2 episodes and then stopped watching. You know, it doesn't really add anything, but you could see little hints at what they're laying for later to happen in the season. You know, all these like pauses in time, or like things which seem so out of character and odd. Those things that were just really fascinating, which wanted you to keep going on because there was this thing of mystery surrounding everything. And you have to admit, us Marvel fans were teased a lot during this whole season. We may not have always got what we wanted, but there was a lot of teasing. Whether that's, well, I can't go into specifics, but certain characters or properties from movies that we hadn't seen in something like this before. If you know, you know. But just things like that, it was really, really exciting stuff. It's no surprise that everyone wants to see all these big things, you know, like the multiverse from what happened in Endgame, and we're gonna get that in Doctor Strange 2, as the title suggests. But, you know, they teased us before and they've done it again here. You know, in Spider-Man Far From Home, in the trailer, they said about the multiverse, and then that just turned out to be Quentin Beck, Mysterio, making some random stuff up. And if you've seen this show, you know how it is a very versatile and unique show. It goes through all the sitcoms from the different decades with Wanda and Vision in them. And to be honest, that versatility really shows how good of an actor and actress Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen are, and they give their best performances in an MCU project thus far. In my opinion, they're the most fleshed out of any of the projects. I guess that's easy to do on a show focused on them, but I learned so many new things about Wanda in particular than I had from those movies she had been in, and I see her in a different light now. Casting Catherine Hahn was a great idea, and she thrived in this. Just so much energy was brought to each scene she was in, and it couldn't help but put a smile on my face. But keeping on the topic of these characters, Darcy Lewis from Thor and Thor: The Dark World, I really didn't like her. I found her really annoying, maybe one of my least favourite in the whole cinematic universe. But now that they've kind of figured out that superhero movie script for like how characters will, you know, connect and have chemistry. They won't be cheesy. Having her in a project, you know, a couple of years after that, she's so much likable. She's really funny in this, and it just shows what can happen with characters if they're given in the right scenario, the right script, as well as her funny relationship with Jimmy Woo, who was great as well and loved seeing back here. As I mentioned, they went through all the different decades throughout this show, referencing a lot of sitcoms, confirming that they live in the same universe, which can be a bit confusing if there's people who have been in that show who are featured in the cinematic universe. So we'll ignore that. It's a bit like when Tom Holland references Star Wars but then doesn't recognise Nick Fury as Mace Windu. But yeah, we can look past those sort of things. This is perhaps Marvel's most unique project, or definitely one of the most unique, as we haven't seen anything like it, not just from Marvel but in the superhero genre at all, and it just shows that there's more to it than just, you know, capes and fighting. There's actual real emotion and quality. It was a thoroughly enjoyable show, and I loved the meta humour that they had when Wanda's aware that she's in a show, because obviously she's doing it. So all that stuff was funny, like when Wanda and Vision were in an argument and the credits start to roll and then Vision's like, no, we're not done here. So that sort of stuff found very enjoyable and very clever, especially when the sword agents are watching it from in their facility and they all acknowledge a recasting of someone in particular. But just to cap it all off, a really promising start to this Disney Plus MCU TV show future that we have in front of us, and if they're all as good as this, then I'm excited for what this future holds. Now, moving into my negatives for this season, well, show in fact, 'cause it's a mini-series. I had a big disappointment. Now, this isn't entirely the show's fault. I should have thought better in hindsight, as well as everyone else should have, but, you know, this is the first project of Phase 4, so we're introduced to this, you know, ambitious, but it's not gonna be like Endgame ambitious or whatever. Introduce all these new characters. We all know who we're thinking, Mephisto. But by the end of the season, I was slightly disappointed with some reveals and just the way things ended overall. Take all those theories away, I probably wouldn't have been, but there were so many hints, you know, referring to Mephisto, like the devil and all that. So maybe it's just them being them and they're teasing us once again like they did with a certain character, but I don't know, part of me was kind of disappointed. And another disappointment in hindsight is I felt like there were a lot of loose ends which weren't really tied up, and the whole ending was quite rushed. Now, I spoke to my friend who is he's a big Marvel fan, and we discussed that maybe it felt rushed towards the end because something with the coronavirus, you know, they had to shorten shooting or cancel shooting. So maybe that was rushed, you know, like we saw a rushed ending to season 2 of Doom Patrol, so maybe it could have been something like that. Maybe one more episode could have benefited to flesh out certain things, because I said there's a lot, but in hindsight I can see where there's moments where things linger too long in the episodes, and if you just devoted some of that time to making a more dramatic ending. Don't get me wrong, I was mostly satisfied with how the show wrapped up, and I enjoyed the last episode. I still gave it a positive review, but you know, there's just some little disappointments with loose ends. Like, I'm not going to go into specifics, but I know what they are, and you probably know what they are as well. Overall though, WandaVision was kind of hard to score for me. As you can tell, I had a lot of good things to say about it, far more good things than bad things, because the bad things were only like nitpicks, so I didn't have much to say on the negative side, but it still was kind of a hard one to, you know, score, because what I mainly judged this score off is how much I enjoyed it compared to the other shows that I had around it with the same rating. I'd still find myself watching it as soon as I woke up every Friday morning. I had this routine where, you know, I'd wake up on the Friday, have my, you know, weekly watch along to the WandaVision episode, then I'd go have my call with my school. So stuff like that. Even today, as I'm filming this, when this episode came out, as WandaVision episodes air at midnight in America. That's 8 AM over here in England, so I woke up this morning and it was 7. I was like, oh, WandaVision's not out yet, so there's no point getting up, so I just went back to bed and watched it a couple of hours later. So like stuff like that, I was always motivated to watch it. Nothing was going to change that. So I've rambled on a bit, but my score for WandaVision is going to be an 85%. I also looked at how I rated the episodes individually on IMDb, and I had a few 7s. Other than the 7s, I had 8s. I never had a 9 out of 10. At some points I was close giving it a 9, but I was like, I don't have that feeling, you know, when I rate things. If I gave an episode a 9 and I have this feeling like, oh, that's too high, then I bring it down to an 8, and that's what I had a couple of times on here. So there is my review of WandaVision. Please let me know in the comments once again what you thought of it, and what's the project you're most excited for on Disney Plus from Marvel. I must admit, when this was first announced, I thought it sounded like a bad idea, but as those trailers came out and now I've seen it, it was a bold move and it's paid off. But yeah, anyways, please like and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Take care.